Good evening, and welcome to the 13th Legends of Prep Dinner and Induction Ceremony. I'm Mike Murcia, Prep's Director of Alumni Relations, and a proud member of the class of 2008, and that's right, and it is such an honor to serve as MC for tonight's celebration. Tonight, we honor 5 individuals who have made undeniably profound impacts at Grandin Warren. The Legends of Prep Awards are the highest honor presented by Prep's Alumni Association, celebrating those who exemplified the ideals of Jesuit education to make our school the institution it is today. At this time, I would like to invite Prep's president, Dr. Michael Gomez, for a brief welcome and an opening prayer. Dr. Gomez?
Thank you, Mike. So these next few months bring an end to Prep's 150th anniversary celebration, pride and glory, then, now, always. And really, what better way to celebrate the then, the now, and the always than to celebrate these 5 legends who themselves collectively have served Prep for over 150 years. Yes, yes. Like when you think of it, they have been so much a part of the then. Their presence, their smiles, their idiosyncrasies. You know them, right? Their distinctive laughs, their catchphrases, and their day-to-day unwavering commitment. All of this has transformatively enriched this 150-year project. This 150-year project of St. Peter's Prep, of sharpening minds, strengthening character, and moving hearts of young men. These legends, of course, they're a part of the now. Their mark has been made at 144 Grant Street and is felt not just in the stories that we tell about them, but in the way we do things because of them. Their mark is also seen through the lives they have impacted on and off campus. And as I look around, I know that that list is long. I know that it is strong because of these 5 men. And of course, they are the always, right? These 5 guys are the always. As we look ahead, forever forward, it is their road we will follow with confidence and courage. I know you join me when I say the gifts they have given, we shall never forget. So with this in mind, we always want to remember the legends who have come before. And what a cast of stars we have tonight. So I'm thrilled to recognize the St. Peter's Prep legends who are in attendance tonight. And when I call your name, now I know all of you are just so humble, but when I call your name, if you could please stand. Jerry Bellotti. Jack Campion. Jack Caulfield. Carl DiLorenzo. It's kind of like Madonna, it's one word. It's just Sister Francis. Anna Garcia. Rich Hansen. Jim Horan. The person whose office I'm borrowing for 10 years, Father Jim Keenan. Tom Lean. Charlie Leza. Phil McGovern. Jack Brzezowski. And Paul Schatzel. Terrific. So let's pray. Let's quiet our hearts just for a second, quiet our minds. Recognize the beauty and the grace of simply being together as St. Peter's Prep. We pray in gratitude for these 5 men of Prep. But we also pray in gratitude for their people, their parents, their friends, their coaches, their teachers, their colleagues, their family, all who have supported them, loved them, cheered for them, taught them, and prayed with them so they can support us, love us, cheer for us, teach us, and pray with us. We also pray in tremendous gratitude just for these legends being a part of our community, 144 Grand Street. So grateful for the ways St. Peter's Prep has changed our lives, all of our lives, then, now, always. St. Ignatius, St. Peter. Before I turn it over to Mike Murcia, let's take a moment and give Mike a big round of applause for putting together this great event. As always, enjoy the evening. Let's go Prep.
This year's 5 inductees have exemplified our values and our traditions in remarkable ways. 2 Jesuits, 2 alumni, and a former vice principal. And the timing of their induction is simply legendary. For starters, this is the first slate of inductees composed completely of Prep faculty and staff since the inaugural Legends of Prep in 1993, the banner to my right, left. Just like the Legends class of 1993, this year's inductees not only served our school, their careers overlapped, marking a significant and special time for St. Peter's Prep in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. In fact, their last year together on our faculty was in 2008, my senior year, 14 years ago. A grim reminder that I may soon need to stop classifying myself as a young alumnus. That's another conversation. It's certainly fitting and incredible to see these gentlemen inducted together the year our school celebrates its 150th anniversary. You simply could not paint a better picture. At this time, I want to thank the Prep Alumni Board, the Legends Selection Committee, our volunteers, and Prep's advancement staff for their roles behind the scenes to ensure this event's success. I'd also like to thank Communications Director Mike Duran for his great work on the event journal, the logos, and the graphics. And finally, our heartfelt thanks to all who supported this event financially through ads, sponsorships, and ticket sales. As always, it's greatly appreciated. Let's give everyone a hand for a job well done. And finally, a brief word about tonight's format. We've decided to take a fresh approach to our induction exercises. Rather than have me tell you about the impact each of our inductees has made on the lives of the Prep community, we have asked each soon-to-be legend to invite a few friends or family members to share their stories on video. We think you will enjoy hearing different voices and different perspectives as they introduce each inductee. Of course, you can learn more about them in the journal at your seat. Now we begin tonight with a posthumous award for Mr. Pat Reidy, who served as math teacher and vice principal at St. Peter's Prep from 1988 to 2008.
For me, Pat was that gentle coach mentor who kind of helped me really find my place here and also be a better teacher and to be more present to the boys in the classroom.
Pat was the vice principal the director of faculty formation before we had that title. He was the registrar, the scheduler, the test coordinator for midterms, finals, APs, SATs. He was a substitute teacher, and he was even an interim department chair when it was needed. He did every single one of those jobs competently, and everyone who dealt with him could see his compassion. So he lived that life, and we all felt it, and we all wanted to have those kind of qualities.
Pat was seemingly always there, always available to help both students and their teachers navigate the bureaucracy, whether it was resolving a last-minute scheduling conflict, helping an upperclassman choose his electives, or patiently explaining to a precocious freshman why he couldn't take AP chemistry.
Ultimately, you want to sum up Pat, right? Pat made people better.
In many ways, Pat was the vice principal here. But for me, he was really a lot like a spiritual director. The idea that when you need him, he gives you his full attention, drops everything, as if you were the only person in the world.
I never recall Pat having a bad day, even when he was under the pressure of his own deadlines. Thinking about Pat Reidy, the words that come to mind are patience, class, insight, and of course, the consummate gentleman with a warm smile and a great sense of humor.
He made me better as principal. I could not have imagined doing that work, and certainly couldn't imagine doing that work well without Pat.
If Pat Reidy had not been here 21 years ago when I started, and if he had not had the patience and dedication to spend the time with us to teach us about all the nuts and bolts and what had to be done in the classroom, I doubt that I would have made it past my first year, and I certainly wouldn't be in my 21st year here. So Pat allowed me to have the best job of my life.
Knowing that I was not alone, knowing that he supported me, knowing that somebody listened, really helped me kind of grow roots at Prep. In fact, there's a picture of Pat that hangs in my office, and sometimes when I'm overwhelmed, I turn and I look and say, Pat, what would you do?
Pat was born to work in the field of education on some level, and it turned out that he fully embraced his destiny, making his mark on so many levels as a teacher, administrator, coach of the math team, and colleague. In that context, he truly was Prep's Renaissance man.
The competence, conscience, compassion piece of the puzzle when we speak about mission, when we speak about the work of Jesuit education, was just stuff that flowed naturally from Pat.
When you think about it, a teacher impacts about 125 students a year, both inside the classroom and out. Pat not only interfaced with the students, but spent more time with the faculty. So he impacted 1,000 students a year. That's how many students in a class. Over 20 years, he impacted 20,000 students. He just made life better for students and faculty.
I miss him. Amazing guy. I would even say a saint, and really the embodiment of a teacher and a mentor and a spiritual director.
I think that a colleague of Pat's summed it up best years ago when he said, if teaching and learning are central to the life of St. Peter's Prep, it is very clear that Pat Reidy is central to that way of life.
Congratulations to all Pat's relatives and family members and friends who are with us tonight.
Congratulations. This is a very well-deserved honor, and I am so thrilled. He always has been, but now it's official. I'm so thrilled to call Pat a legend of Prep.
I'm thrilled for Pat, his family, and for Prep, that Pat is being recognized for what he really is, a true legend of Prep.
With quiet dignity and a wry smile, Pat Reidy served for 20 years as the glue that held the academic life of Prep together. At the bustling corner of Grand and Warren, his light in Mulry Hall was often the first to go on in the morning, and just as often it shone well into the evening. There was work to be done, and Pat was going to do it, and he was going to make sure it was done right. With humility, compassion, and grace, he ensured many moving parts could function in harmony and that teachers and students alike would have what they needed to succeed. He will always be our pride and our glory. At this moment, I invite Pat's brother, Dennis Egen, to receive Pat's award.
Good evening. As I was already introduced, I am Pat Reidy's brother. Thank you all for coming. He would be proud of the turnout, as I'm sure the other 4 inductees are. No need to tell you how proud I am of him. His 20 years at St. Peter's Prep, from 1988 to 2008, was his final chapter of teaching and the commencement of his roles in leadership, which spanned 48 years. His last 4 years of life was substitute teaching and SAT prep. Let me go back to the beginning. Pat was born in 1938. Our sister, who is in attendance tonight also, along with my son, was born in 1940. They were struck a blow when at the ages of 1 and 3, their father passed away. It was difficult growing up without a father, as it was for our mother to not have a husband. I might note that they had the support of family. Our mother came from Ireland at the age of 11 in 1926. In 1947, our mother remarried, and I was born in 1948. This stabilized our family. When I was 4 and Pat was 14, he left to answer his calling to begin his training to be a brother of the Sacred Heart. I remember crying until about the age of 11. When I saw him, I could not understand why he could not come back home. In 1960, at the age of 22, after graduating from Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama, he began his teaching at Monsignor McClancy and Bishop Riley High Schools in Queens, in New York City. Along the way, he got his love for the Jesuits by getting 2 master's degrees at Fordham and Boston College. In the 1970s, he rose to leadership roles as principal of St. Joseph's in Metuchen and 6 years as provincial of the Sacred Heart Order. He finished up for Sacred Heart in the 80s, working as teacher and student counselor at Phillipsburg Catholic. His dedication and kindness extended beyond the classroom. My most lasting memory of my brother was in 2011 when I developed breast cancer. Every 3 weeks for 6 months, he would drive from Hillsborough, New Jersey to Brooklyn, pick me up, drive me to Manhattan, NYU Hospital, and would sit with me for 4 hours while I received chemo. This was after accompanying me for an all-day surgery. I would be remiss if I left out his marriage to Marge Reidy in 1988. I'm sorry to say she passed away a few months ago. Thank you to the members of our family who are here tonight. I'd like to close by saying just a few words that describe my brother. Gifted, caring, responsible, resilient, and creative. I truly miss him tonight. Marks 10 years since his passing, unexpectedly. Thank you again for your attendance, and enjoy the speeches from the next 4 inductees, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you.
Our next inductee is a former prep teacher, chaplain, retreat director, and current guidance counselor, Father John Mullin.
I think Father Mullin just is such a support for all the students. He is that gentle kind of guiding light as a counselor, guidance counselor, to just help the students get to the next stage of life. He's the perfect person, I think, to support high school students as they transition into the rest of their life, because he's just so kind of gentle in the way he approaches the student.
One of the great things that I love about John is that he is open to growth in a way that is really delightful. One might expect an older member of the faculty, maybe even an older Jesuit, to kind of be set in their ways, but that's never been John. John's always excited to try new approaches, do new things, yes, even to use technology. Always with a smile on his face and happy to get some help, and he'll call over sometimes one of our younger colleagues maybe to help with the technology, but always happy to engage and never a complaint.
Being compassionate is something that Father Mullin surely is, and I can see it also in the work that he has done as a freshman counselor throughout their mission, as a Jesuit priest as well. So I truly believe that he really deserved to be inducted as one of the legends of prep, for sure.
Father Mullin, when he comes up to you, he's gonna smile at your face and then give you a nice firm handshake. And he's gonna ask you, how's your day, how are you, who are you? But just from that point on, he wanted to really know you, not only for who you are, but who you are as a person. He wanted to know who your friends were. He wanted to know everything about you, how your classes, the good and the bad. And one of the things I really admire about Father Mullin is that he really listened, and I really appreciated that.
The idea of being a man for others, I don't hesitate to say that John is a man for others.
Being with Father Mullin, seeing him at the prep events and everything is such a calming demeanor that, he just puts you at ease with yourself, and he's able to listen and hear what you have to say, and just to have him available in case you need some advice or anything. He was always there, and he's an asset to the school, definitely.
Every day with him here is a gift, and it's also neat to have someone at prep who has such a long history here. And I love at graduation when the principal cites all the benemerentes, and the OG is Father Mullin, who goes back to 1970.
He's just always so fun to be around. In our department meetings, he's always making funny facial expressions about his reactions to things we talk about. So he's honest in that way too. And he brings a lighthearted joy, but also is serious about his work as a counselor, and has a nice balance of both of those things, I think. So
I love when you reach out to me on social media when I post. I do post a lot, and you're there, and you're one of the main supporters that see when I post. But I really appreciate that. You're intentional about, like I said, true friendship. You stay in touch.
I hope he continues to be a big part of the prep community for a long time.
He emboldens the kids to do what they like to do, by living a spiritual life. And I think that's his main essence is the spirituality of what he brings to prep, as far as, the Jesuit values and what they are.
I remember when the Legend of Prep honor was first conceived, I think the idea was that these would be the individuals who you cannot imagine prep without them. And I don't think anybody can imagine a St. Pierre's Prep without Father John Mullin, SJ.
If you don't hear it often, I love you, Father Mullin, for the impact you had on my life and impact you will continue to have on my life and everybody else.
You are truly a man for others, and you are a good example of how a Jesuit priest should be and is for all the students, for all the faculty, for all the staff at Prep. Thank you so much for all that you have done. Gracias y muchas felicidades, Padre Juan. Lo quiero mucho.
Hi, John. Thank you so much for being you. I'm so grateful to have you in my life, not only here at school, but outside of school. I'm so happy to know you and call you a friend. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Father John Mullin. You are a legend of prep, and I love you.
Then the two told what had happened on the way and how Jesus was recognized by them when he broke the bread. The sentence that concludes Luke's passage of the road to Emmaus has defined two of the most important prep experiences for countless students, Emmaus and Kairos. These are experiences that came to fruition because of your dedication and unconditional love for St. Peter's Prep. Today, you nourish our community with your Christian Life community meetings. You instill a love for the arts, one bus trip at a time, and you light the way for the newest members of the Prep family as they navigate freshman year. At every step of the way, you are our pride and our glory. Congratulations, Father Mullin, and welcome to the Legends of Prep.
Yep. Thank you. The four of us who are still around were checking in with each other whose speech would be the shortest. Somehow, I don't know what happened to mine. I got a little bit long here, but let's see what happens. I'm so honored to be here tonight, grateful, joyful to be standing here this evening. Thanks so very much. When I returned to Prep after an absence of 14 years to begin the counseling part of my journey, I found the students to be more or less the same as when I left in 1986. Aggressively friendly, and in counseling, very open. But the school structures had changed, the grading system and the schedule. I must have been in an academic VP's, Pat Reidy's office every other day with questions. Pat would drop whatever he was doing, like scheduling the entire school with Post-it notes on a whiteboard in his office, to answer my endless questions. In those days, the director of guidance and counseling was Jim Dondero. Where is he? Where is he? Let's see. And I was in his office every other day with questions about counseling. This kid is in big trouble with the dean. Now what do I do? Both men were so kind, patient, gracious in breaking me in to the ways of Prep. Joe Giglio, my good friend, former student, succeeded Jim as head of guidance and counseling, and I am forever grateful to these men for their wisdom, their guidance, and their love in all they have taught me. In March of 1970, I drove to Jersey City so I could have an advanced look at my very first apostolic assignment in Jersey City. The evening was getting very late because I could not find the entrance to the Holland Tunnel. When I did make my way through, I was horrified because the place looked like Dresden after the war. And I was lost. Finally, I found my way to Grand Street, but I made a right instead of a left. I wound up someplace in a Gulf station to ask directions. I was so nervous, I left the car and drive when I got out, and it rolled into the street. So running after the car, I managed to jump back in. When I finally arrived at Prep, no one answered the only bell I could find at the old Jesuit community entrance, 144 Grand. I saw some lights on in a window, and I began throwing rocks up at the window. Finally, somebody looked out and let me in. Welcome to Prep. Then came my years teaching biology to sophomores with a sprinkling of seniors here and there, just to make the classes more interesting. Of course, the students tortured me, as they do to this day, to welcome all new teachers to prep. And once I walked into the biology lab for a class and all the Bunsen burners were lit, the students all began singing happy birthday. The only problem was it was not my birthday. It wasn't even close. Then there was the trip to Coney Island, to the aquarium for the biology club. After touring the aquarium and the labs, we stopped at Nathan's for hot dogs and fries and climbed back into the van. I was preoccupied with driving, but I did notice that everyone was in a very happy mood. I thought to myself, a very successful trip. A year later, I found out that in addition to a hot dog and a fry, the boys treated themselves to a few beers. I'm so grateful to those first students. Those first students of mine, for their humor, their friendship, their interest in biology. One of them, Ray Bucko, class of '71, became a Jesuit. Unfortunately, he's now confined to bed at Murray Weigel Hall up in the Bronx with a debilitating disease. Joel Vento became a neurosurgeon. John Terrell, an osteopathic doctor. Paul Roses, a chiropractor. Joe Gomez, our president's brother, a cardiologist. As their biology teacher, I take great pride and found such joy in their accomplishments. Every teacher here knows what I'm talking about. After ordination as a priest, several years of back and forth between St. Peter's Prep and St. Peter's Parish, I recall celebrating my first Mass in what is now the Commons. The altar was located in the church where the food is now served. I thought that was appropriate. Sadly, the place where I was baptized, where I baptized many babies, in the back of the church, is now the area for the restrooms. I guess there was a source of water there. All during these years, John Browning and Ned Coughlin taught me the ways of youth ministry, especially in giving retreats. Tony Azzarto was there to help me get me started in freshman religion and counseling. He even left the freshman lounge, complete with a ping pong table, for me before his first stint in Nigeria. He also left a year's supply of ping pong balls hidden in the furniture, under the chairs, in every corner of the room, and high up on the windowsills. I'm so grateful to my brother Jesuits, John, Ned, and Tony. Grateful for so many student retreat teams. Chris Krizak of the team of '82. The Beetle of the Emmaus team. He was outstanding for his contagious enthusiasm, his joy, excitement, and the love he brought to the retreat program. The retreat program really took off after that year. And what can I say about Brother Tom Garvey, my best friend in the society, who taught me so much about counseling and who was my ghostwriter for homilies? Make it simple. Cut out all that baloney. Father Bob O'Hare has now taken over that job. Thank you. Tom worked hand in hand with me on Emmaus retreats until his untimely death at Christmas time in 1985. I remain so grateful for the gifts he shared with me, for the retreat team, the class of '86, who supported me and prayed with me, even though they were hurting themselves. After 13 years of Emmaus retreats at St. Peter's University and Fordham University in the Bronx, I found myself with Ned Coughlin again at St. Francis Xavier Parish in Manhattan for 3 years. My eyes were open to a much greater church and ministry with all its friendships, its joys, and its pain. I'm forever grateful to that community. Finally, I was welcomed back to prep in 2003 by Principal Jack Wazowski. I remain grateful to Jack for many years of friendship, love, and support, and his inspiration in all things prep and Ignatian. Little did I know that when I arrived at prep that September, Jack had decided to move on. And that's when I began my journey with Pat Reidy, Jim Dondero. My friend and former student, Jim D'Angelo, became principal and moved prep educationally into the 21st century. The principal secretary, Grace Squalario, has always been there for me to talk, to help me with supplies, or share a cup of coffee. You might be wondering why I haven't mentioned John Irvine. Well, I taught John religion as a freshman and a senior, and I was his freshman guidance counselor. I always thought John would be a great Jesuit, but he had other plans. He sent his son John to prep, and every year that goes by, I see the sons of more prep alums pass through prep. What a joy to see so many prep students sitting in group guidance, and I call them by their father's name. I was waiting for the day that I have a grandchild of a former student. I'm afraid that that day may not be too far off. The source of so much joy and gratefulness at prep continues to be in my colleagues on the faculty and staff. I can't name all of you. I was blessed especially to be interacting with prep students over the years. And what fun to invent AP group guidance, not an approved course, with 5 seniors from the class of 2008, having lunch in my office on Fridays, or gathering for groups for lunch, fellowship, and prayer in CLC groups, now ILC, interfaith groups. This is where we are at prep today. How exciting to take students to the opera in the beginnings of SPPAC, the Performing Arts Society, with Rosalie Romano and her Italian students. And so that I could share my passion for the arts with those students. How grateful I am for our benefactor, Jerry Sheehan, who makes it possible for Trish Fitzpatrick and myself to treat 45 students at a clip to a dinner, a bus ride in New York, and an opera, a Broadway show, and yes, even a ballet. I'm so grateful to my longtime friend, Jesuit Father Pierce Brennan, who taught me most of what I know about the arts and who was consulted about each decision for SPPAC. It's my dream to one day take the entire football team to enjoy a ballet at Lincoln Center. Or what do you think, Coach Hanson? Where are you? I guess I'm getting old and bold these days. 2 weeks ago, I told our new and wonderful principal, Chris Caulfield, that I was going to kill him. What have I got to lose now? For some reason, he took me seriously. Just yesterday, I threw out the formidable and always helpful in all things IT, Dave Bailey. I threw him out of my office. My greatest joy these days is accompanying 3 refugee boys at prep. Dmitry, who fled with his family from Kharkiv in Ukraine. Milad, whose father had a position in the Afghan government before the Taliban took over. And Cheyenne, coming out of a dangerous situation in Colombia. This is our Ignatian work at prep. It is who we are and always have been, welcoming the poor, the migrant, the refugees. Thanks to all of you for this honor tonight. My apologies to those I could not mention who have been an important part of my life. I'm certainly very grateful, very honored, very happy to be working sub umbra patri with all of you. Thank you.
Our next inductee is former prep teacher and soccer coach, and currently Prep's Director of Admissions, Director of the Higher Achievement Program, and a proud alumnus of the class of 1983, Mr. John Irvine.
The unique thing about the way John is able to spread Prep's mission is that he was able to do it from 3 different positions, 3 different perspectives.
I always think of John, and it's amazing how somebody who can, be all those things at once and do them well.
It's really not about himself or getting anything out of it. It's all about seeing guys that he coached or taught, or even someone that went through half, succeed and find happiness in life.
When it comes to prep, he speaks from the heart, similar to the way he talks about Bruce Springsteen.
102.7 WNEW or Q104.3, hoping for a Bruce song. The car rides are special. I think that's where our bond and our friendship really grew.
Think of car rides as like the in-between of your life. Like you do something cool, then you go on a car ride to get somewhere else. But the car ride itself is actually an opportunity to appreciate life, have father-son conversations. And we had a lot of them in the car. So yeah, the car rides are actually some of my best memories, actually.
There are plenty of people who, when you're around them, it's a chore to be around them, right? John's the exact opposite, right? It's not a chore, it's just a gift that keeps on giving.
I've always considered, my time at Prep, what I learned there was to do the best that I could in any task that I found myself in. And I think I learned a lot of that from John.
So much of my prep experience, so much of my life experience, comes from John and the prep soccer program.
John effortlessly fits into every niche of prep life: academic, social, administrative, athletic, spiritual, and he embodies the very essence of being a man for others.
There's so many great memories because of how good of a friend John is, and I'm really lucky to have that.
John Irvine is a man who has kept the faith and the joy that goes with it. And he's done that every day. He's been at St. Peter's Prep, and generations of young men and older men are better for that.
One of the tenets of Ignatian education is to find God in all things. My dad can also find prep in all things. So a few examples of this. There's a Springsteen song, one very small line, and it mentions marauders. And as soon as this song came out, he brings me over, he's like, John, you gotta listen to this, listen to this. Turns the volume up, plays the line, and then we're kind of both just like reveling in the fact that Bruce is singing about, that's us, that's our people.
Bill Parcells would always say that the best ability is availability. There's nobody more available to his friends, to his colleagues, to his family than John Irvine.
I don't know if you can find that many people that have been so dedicated to prep for so long. I think John has basically done everything he's been asked to do over his time at prep for prep.
He's a wonderful colleague, the guy you want on your committee or working on your important project, always with a great attention to detail. And as a bonus, he's always fun to be around.
Hey John, congratulations. I've always thought of you as a legend of prep, and now it's official. Just want to thank you for the role that you've played in so many lives, especially mine. My prep experience wouldn't have been the same without you, and I truly appreciate everything you've done. You've been a rock in my life, you've been a presence for over 20 years, and I'm super grateful for everything. Thanks.
You've been a legend of prep in my eyes for a long time, and I know in a lot of eyes, and now it's finally official. Congratulations, and enjoy the night.
Well, John, you've been a legend in my life for 20 years now, so I'm just super excited that Prep has wised up and made it official. So thanks for everything.
John, congratulations on your induction as a legend. Congratulations to P and to John and to Janice and the entire extended Irvine family. I know your mother and father and Richie are looking down with great joy.
Congratulations, Dad. Thank you so much for everything. I love you, and I hope that you have a great night tonight.
John, students in your English classes knew it was never enough to be Joe average. Yes, a lazy title would cost a few points, but more importantly, you modeled the Jesuit value of striving for the Majas, just as you did as a student, as a soccer player and coach, and as director of the Higher Achievement Program. 20 years after you traded the classroom for the admissions office, nearly 5,000 freshmen and their families have first known your face and voice and sense of humor as those of St. Peter's Prep. No one could represent Prep better because you are our pride and our glory. Congratulations, John, and welcome to the Legends of Prep.
Thank you. Can you hear me in the back? I'm sorry for you. Thank you so much. To my prep colleagues, you can start your stopwatches now. I know what many of you are thinking. Doesn't Irvine already have a couple of these Legends Awards? No, this is actually my first. We tell the boys to always have grateful hearts, so I must begin with a few thank yous. To the one anonymous member of the Alumni Board who voted for me. To my friends from outside prep, yes, there are such people. To my classmates, my brothers from the class of '83, my prep colleagues, my former soccer players, my former students, thank you so much for being here tonight. Mike Murcia told me that some of my former students asked for a refund when they found out this was not a posthumous honor. To my family, my sister Janice, a Benny Morente recipient for her 20-plus years of work at St. Peter's. My niece Megan, her husband Farron, my son John, you saw him on the eulogy video, and his wife Emily. The night certainly would not be complete without your being here. Finally, my wife Tisha, who never stops giving me reasons to be grateful. You have generously allowed me to share my heart with Prep for more than 3 decades. You are the true legend in our family. I'd like to share a little-known fact with you. 20 years ago, I attended my first national conference for admissions directors. One of the speakers was talking about the importance of a slogan or a catchphrase that all constituents could relate to. I began jotting down ideas, and in about 2 minutes, Prep for Life was born. I know it's the same for many in this room, but those 3 words ring so true for me. For my first day as a freshman, I loved saying I went to Prep. I loved having 83 next to my name on my business cards. And nothing made me prouder than adding P11 when John graduated. I am indeed a lifer. Prep has been good for me and good to me. I am most proud to count former students and players among my closest friends. That does not happen in many schools, but I guess that's because Prep is not a school as much as a second home. I've attended every one of these Legends dinners, and in each one, I took time to look around and wonder. I wondered who was there for each inductee, who was listening to that particular speaker because he or she had somehow impacted their life. Take tonight, for example. There have to be 8 or 9 people here for Tony Azzarto. At least 8 or 9, maybe even a full table. Well, as these Legends inductions multiplied, it made me realize how blessed I have been. I was listening intently to each of these speakers at each of these dinners because these great people had changed my life in the smallest of ways and in the most significant of ways. During those most formative years of my life, I had 11 of these amazing individuals as teachers. And during my time learning the craft of teaching and then working in admissions, 9 have been my colleagues, and several have risen to the status of close friend. Mr. Charlie Rooney, my freshman algebra teacher and one of the very first Legends, drove me to school every day in junior and senior year. He never knew that what was for him just a simple act would have such a lasting effect. For each of my 33 years at Prep, I've always had a car full of students, paying forward the kindness of Mr. Rooney. And I'm sure that Jack Roslowski could never have predicted that a phone call in 1985 would change probably both of our lives. I was a sophomore in college, and Jack asked me to join his soccer staff. It redirected the path of my career toward coaching and teaching. And when Father John Browning called me into his office in 1994, to ask me to replace him as director of the Higher Achievement Program, I know that he could only have hoped that I would somehow live up to the standard that he had set. My goal each summer is simply to make him proud. Father Browning, sending a message. That is the reason all of these Legends, these bigger-than-life prep heroes, are part of what Jim Horan likes to call the Pantheon. Each was honored at their dinner for all that they had done. But that was only the tip of the iceberg. You see, this night is not as much about recognizing me as it is to honor their legacy and the impact that continues and will continue long after they've had their dinner. And it's happening again tonight. I would be here even if I had to pay for my ticket. Pat Reidy offered wisdom and support during my early years in the classroom. He observed my class many times, yet still encouraged me to continue teaching. John Mullin, as he mentioned before, was my freshman counselor and then my senior religion teacher. As he said, he tried his best to get me to join the society, but even legends sometimes fail. He didn't hold a grudge and was on the altar when Tisha and I got married. Jim Dondero also attended our wedding and has been a close friend and colleague for more than 30 years. And then there's Tony. He was my freshman religion teacher before he bolted for Nigeria. He celebrated our wedding, baptized John, presided at our weddings, at our parents' funerals. Heck, John even took Anthony as his confirmation name, and there are no Tonys in our Irish families. So I'm beyond humbled to be welcomed into this prestigious club. Any reason to congratulate me tonight is a reason for me to thank these giants who have touched my life. Thank you all, and it's time to eat.
Our next inductee is a proud member of the class of 1966. former director of Prep's College and Guidance Counseling Department, longtime moderator of Prep's Ebony Club, dance committee, musicals and dramatic productions, among many, many other roles, Mr. Jim Dondero.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, Jim Dondero is probably the most compassionate person I've ever met in my life. And he's one of those people, whether you're a student, an adult, a friend, a colleague, he gives you unconditional guidance and unconditional compassion.
He met the school where they needed people, they needed him to rise to the occasion, and he always did that. And I think, again, that sets that example of leading from a position within the community.
As I really do believe he embodies competence, conscience, and compassion. He is that. It's not just words. He lives it, he breathes it, and he imparts that onto other kids.
I remember walking past his office when I was a kid. It's almost the same feel as walking past his office as an adult. The door's always open. There's usually people sitting around, and he's got that great smile, making you feel like you're the most important person in the world.
He leads by example, right? And when you go into a room with him, I don't think I've ever met someone that's more calm or more open about talking about things that are difficult to talk about than Jim Dondero.
He impacted so many people that I became friends with the people that he impacted because we'd all find ourselves in the same space together.
He's impacted so many lives, done so many great things for so many people, and he's done it in a very, very low-key, under-the-radar kind of way. Almost makes him a confidant to just about everybody who's come in contact with him.
I've had the opportunity now to have forged out a friendship with him for over 20 years. So I've seen a lot of young men come through his counselor's doors and, benefit from the wisdom that he's had the opportunity to impart.
And I think he made it a much richer and more diverse place as a result of having that energy that, we can be strong in the things we're strong in, but those are not the only things that define us. There's a bunch of other opportunities and perspectives to give support to, and he did that.
Jim would run the dances when we were students, and Jim had the responsibility of making sure that there was a lot of room for the Holy Spirit in between people dancing. And of course, he would never call me out on it because, kid for Bayonne, I walked the straight and narrow. But he did have to interrupt a lot of my friends, and he had a great way of doing it. He would stare at you, smile, and say, "I'm gonna tell your mother about this."
Like, Dondero is at every single prep event, athletically, academically. I mean, he was involved in the shows, doing things after school. I think just him being around the prep community and every single type of event that has taken place, that he's always present and supporting people.
We've been able to interact with these people that are more than just teachers, more than just guidance counselors. They become friends and instill these lifelong bonds with their students even after they've graduated. And that's the effect that he's had. It's just that he makes prep feel like a home.
There's a mojo here that isn't in a lot of places. And I think Jim represents that mojo. There's an underlying care, compassion that he provides to us. I think it's contagious. I think many people who have the same attributes probably were influenced by him.
So he's not just a colleague of mine. This is truly my best friend. Like, there's two people in my life. It's Jared Love and it's Jim Dondero. You know what I'm saying? Like, these dudes are prep guys who truly understand, my heart.
Honestly, I wish there were more words to say, but congratulations on this. There are very few people deserving of this honor, and you're right up there. I've always joked around with you. If there was a Mount Rushmore of prep people, your face would be up there. Thank you for everything you've done for me and for all the students that have come and gone through the past 30 odd years that you've been here. And from the bottom of my heart, congrats, and I love you, man.
Thank you for being a stabilizing figure in my life. And thank you for all the work that you have done for this community over all of these years.
Congratulations, Dad. Excited for you to be nominated as a legend, and I think it's a well-deserved honor.
Jim, I couldn't be more happy for you. Congratulations on becoming a Prep legend. It's a great club, and you certainly deserve to be here, my friend. So grateful for our friendship and so happy for you and your family. Congratulations.
Dondero, man, I love you a lot, man. I appreciate you. I really wish I can be there to see you inducted. But I feel so honored to be able to share my story about how you impacted my life, but more importantly, I know you impacted so many lives.
Mr. Dondero, Jim, congratulations on being a legend. I love you.
Educator, counselor, director, manager, prep brother, father, grandfather. Through the years, you've worn various hats, but there was always one you wore best, friend. You've demonstrated love when our boys needed it most. You've helped your colleagues tap into their true potential. You've shown our community the value of celebrating its rich diversity. You have a knack for finding talent, and that has helped so many of us find love, trust, and confidence in ourselves. Prep has grown in so many ways because of your unwavering dedication. Tonight, we add one more hat to your extensive list, legend. You are our pride and our glory. Jim, congratulations, and welcome to the Legends of Prep. At this time, I'd like to invite Jim's son, Mark, to the podium.
Hi, everybody. Great honor for me to be up here reading. My father wanted me to read this for him, and yeah, I'm just happy to be here. Okay, let's get into his character now. All in his voice. Hello, St. Peter's. And thank you, particularly to the Alumni Board, for this extraordinary honor. I am humbled by this recognition, but also to be included with Tony Azzarto, John Irvine, John Mullin, and Pat Reidy. They have been friends and supportive colleagues throughout our time together at Prep. I'm the son of a car salesman who had a 2-year high school education and a mom who was a secretary, and they were so proud that they were able to send their sons to the Prep. It clearly was the best investment they made, and I love them for it. My association with St. Peter's began in 1956 when my brother Jack enrolled as a freshman. When I arrived on campus in September 1962, my first teacher, who was a priest, introduced himself as our homeroom Latin and religion teacher, and then introduced himself as Father John Browning. It didn't take long for me to realize that John Browning was a person who had influenced my life in so many ways. He was the embodiment of the ideal of being a man for others, and how fortunate was I that he was my first teacher at Prep. Simultaneously, there was a Jesuit scholastic on the faculty at that time, Mr. Anthony Azzarto, who again would set a world vision for me. Ironically, 30 years later, I would become their supervisor as director of guidance at Prep. What a humbling experience for me. The phrase prep for life is proven by my 50-plus year friendships with Lou Facito, Bruce Poloni, and Frank Spillane, who are here this evening. We have watched our lives play out and our families grow together. I returned to St. Peter's 22 years after I graduated and spent half of that time working at St. Joseph's of the Palisades High School. Friendships formed with my St. Joe's students have endured for more than 40 years with Joe Benito, Rene Creange, Julio Morahan, and Diana Punales. Their daughters, Amanda and Alicia, my goddaughters, and Rene Moran and his wife, Veronica, all here tonight. Thank you for being a blessing for such a great part of my life. And then came Prep. I was hired by Father Ray Baldoff, who became a friend, a mentor, and a father figure to me. Following in his footsteps was a challenge, but when groomed by such a legend, I was ready for the challenge. Working with Father Ray and Janice Martineau as a team was an experience I look back to fondly. Father Ray with the experience, and Janice with keeping the two of us in line. Again, thank you, Ray and Janice, for your support and loyalty. Taking on the student council in 1989, there was a member I was the guidance counselor for who was also a member of a pre-calc class I taught for a year. His name is Michael Gomez, and I can still see him sitting in the center row in the center seat with that broad smile controlling the class. Our bond has not been broken since. I was fortunate to have the wisdom, friendship, and support of Jack Roslowski and Father Jim Keenan during my journey. They had the faith and trust to allow me to not only direct the guidance department, but to direct dramatic productions and the Ebony Club as well. I never asked Jack for any of his trust. Instead, he approached me with the challenges and the belief I was the right person for those jobs. Father Keenan, a friend and a role model, is part of the family, marrying my daughter Lisa and baptizing my granddaughters Kira and Brenna. Thanks, Jack and Jim, for the decades of trust and love. Through the years as guidance director, stage director, and the Ebony Club, I've met so many people who have had an impact that it's hard for me to start mentioning names without being fearful of missing one of them. But they know who they are because they live in my heart. Inheriting the Ebony Club from John Browning and Tony Azzarto was a privilege to continue the work that they had accomplished. In the arts, having the opportunity to work with faithful friends like Steve Kaslowitz, B. Magatti, and a host of talented young students in the 26 shows was a learning experience that is hard to describe. And of course, the wonderful counselors that I worked with in guidance for 34 years were my daily source of inspiration. We learned from each other, grew together in our profession, which is what prep is really all about. When I came for my interview at prep, the first person I ran into on campus was Rich Hansen. He was a student at St. Joe's, and he was wondering what I was doing at prep, and I was wondering the same thing about him. We worked together, and experiences with him in the football program of mentoring players and being site manager for home games are some of my greatest memories of my time at prep. And the faithful crew of Rocco, Dre, Hugo, Janice, Mary Phyllis, Diane, Erica are at the core of what makes prep a great place. Whether it was SAT testing, working the gate at football games, proctoring a dance, or giving me a ride to school, Mary Phyllis Lucretia was there. She was always there for any help needed. There are so many teachers I could mention who have played a significant part in my professional life, but again, fearful of missing a name, I have to trust that they know they hold a special place in my heart. And of course, my greatest resource, the thousands of students who trusted me with their fears, worries, dreams, and aspirations. What a privilege to have the opportunity to share in life's joys and difficulties with so many who taught me so much. They remain as the greatest blessings of my professional career. My family was always patient with the long hours I spent at prep and became a part of the prep family. My son Mark is a 2000 graduate and was a wrestler and an actor. My daughter Lisa choreographed 22 musicals here at prep. And my wife Kathy was mending costumes, shopping for props, or proctoring SATs as a part of making me look good. And even my granddaughter Kira, who recently was in 2 of prep's plays. And B. Magatti, who was there unconditionally for SATs, plays, dances, wherever he could help. Thanks for all of your love. But isn't family what prep is all about? Roslowski, McGovern, Gomez, Caulfield, to name a few. Names that exemplify the familial nature of prep. It's built into the fabric of who we are. On January 6th, 1990, I walked the streets of New York trying to make sense of the fact that my brother Jack had passed away suddenly the day before. I was also facing the fact that for the rest of my life, I would be living without my primary family members. When thinking and contemplating how to make sense of this life change, I came to a decision. I promised Mom, Dad, and my brother that I would dedicate every day from that day forward to do the things on this earth that they could no longer do. They were people, dedicated to helping others. With the reception of this honor this evening, I'm hoping they understand that I did the best that I could. Thank you again, and I wish you all the love and blessings in your lives that I have experienced as being a Marauder for 60 years. Thank you.
And now, our final Legends inductee, former teacher, alumni chaplain, guidance counselor, and retreat director, Father Tony Azzarto.
I think if you stopped anybody in the street who has any familiarity with this place at all, and you asked that question, I'll say, well, Father Azzarto does all that.
I've known Father for over 30 years, and I cannot think of a single time when he chose his own welfare or well-being over that of another individual. He was always there when anyone needed him.
Whether it's positive news, negative news, but he's a man that's always there to lend an ear and to give you some advice.
He does the Lord's work every day, seeking out the ones who need his help the most and giving them that help or finding a way to get them that help. He truly lives in Ignatius' spirit. He cares about every single one of us.
It's almost too numerous to mention the things that he's done for people, for students, alumni, that you don't even know about. Just little things, is just being there. Like he likes to say, you got to go out and smell a sheep. He takes after the Pope saying that you have to be out with the people. And he's always out with the people.
He's an amazing man. He makes you see things that you didn't see. He tells great stories. Unfortunately, it's all about the Dodgers and not the Yankees. But he really makes you think. The time that I spend with him, those are tremendous hours.
I don't think we'll ever see anyone like him in the history of prep.
His just giving of himself and his always being present for everything. I don't think there was a concert that he wasn't at, or a basketball game, or a football game, or a wrestling match. He was there for everybody to try to meet all the interests.
He never puts himself first. He always puts the other person first. He's more concerned with how you're doing, but he's definitely someone that would be interested in other lives and other people's, crises or challenges that may come their way.
He's omnipresent. He is there for everything. If you're a freshman on the baseball team, he's there. If you're the senior scoring a touchdown, he's there. If you're in the chess club, he's there.
There is not a day that goes by for the past 32 years where he's not impacted my life. We email at least 3 times a week, share stories and information on people in our lives, catch up on the latest news. He lifts my spirit with his wisdom and lightheartedness.
He's obviously been a presence in my life for a long time. I've been able to be qualified as a professional Jesuit Uber driver because of him.
Having a bad or good day, Dr. Azzarto advises you to have a hot dog and ice cream.
I just adore our friendship. It's something that I never thought you could achieve in this life, but I gotta thank him for everything he's done.
There's not one event that goes by where a week or two later you don't get a couple of photos in the mail from him on the event. I think he was the last person in the United States to actually use film.
Father Azzarto, congratulations on this honor. You have been a bumper guard of life for so many of us. You have cushioned my heart and soul through the many roller coaster events in my life, and the joy, gratitude, and love that fill my heart from knowing you grows deeper with each passing year. Thank you.
Father Azzarto, congratulations. I just want to tell you that I'm humbled to speak on thousands upon thousands of people that you've impacted, and just wish you well and congratulations.
Tony, I want to thank you for finally accepting this honor. It's well-deserved. If you look around tonight, I'm sure there's many, many faces that are here because of you, and I can't thank you enough, and I look for many more years of a great, true friendship that we have. Thanks again for all you do, and nothing but the best of luck to you.
Father Azzarto, I am so happy that you finally accepted this Legend Award. I know you put it off for a while. And I just want to congratulate you and tell you how much you have made a difference in my life and the lives of so many other people. You have, not just what you do, but who you are has made a tremendous difference. And I hope that tonight you feel a little bit of that love that everyone in the room, everyone who's ever known you has for you.
Well, Father Tony, we've been trying to do this since 1993, so we finally got you to accept what you well and long deserve. So congratulations, Legends of Prep.
Answering the call to be a man for and with others is a challenge in two parts. First, one must commit to serve others, and whether they have needed a friend, a spiritual advisor, a cheerleader, or a voice calling out for justice, or simply a tie to stay in dress code, you have served thousands at prep and beyond with distinction for more than 60 years. But one must also be ready to stand with others, sometimes in spirit, often in person, and at the peaks of joy and in the depths of despair. On the very best days, on the very worst days, and crucially, because you have taught us to seek God in all things, to find the sacred in the simple, ordinary moments, on all the days in between, you have always been there, and you have always been our pride and our glory. Father Azzarto, congratulations and welcome to the Legends of Prep.
I hope I can read my own writing. Thank you for coming, for all of us. It's an honor, really, to be included. Pat Reidy was a man of faith, and he spent summers working out schedules by hand before the computers. He always had his door open and was able to listen. John Irvine, former student, blessed to be minister at the marriage for him and Tisha. His mom and dad, always there on the field or at prep. A welcome face, always in the admissions. John Mullin, good Brooklyn prep man, mentored me to take over the MOS program, showed me really the ropes as a guidance counselor, sent money and clippings to me in Nigeria, and enticed me to an opera. Jim Dondero, a presence for so many students, especially those on the edge. Great generosity to keep the Ebony Club going and to be creative with so much of the drama and musicals. I'm certainly honored this evening to be included with them. I'm happy this evening to have two of my 5 nephews here with their wives. Mike and Tony, along with Kathy and Carol. Why don't you stand up? One of my other nephews, John, the class of '81, now in South Carolina. And this evening, I see them after 2.5 years with the pandemic, not being able to get to Staten Island. So here we meet in Garfield. And tonight, we really honor St. Peter's Prep. It's a privilege to have taught at Prep for 33 years. Strength from faculty, administration, and students. But you know, when you think about it, very much from the secretaries, the late Helen Arduin, the ones now, Grace Galerio, Mary Phyllis Lucrecio, Dolores Russell, Diane McCabe, and although she's not with us, Terry Labruno. A little round of applause for our secretaries. They bailed me and the students out in many times. The stories that will not be found in Jim Horan's 350-page book of prep. I'm certainly blessed. Prep, the people, have taught me how to show up. Woody Allen says that 85% of life is showing up and to reach out to those in need. So many of you have invited me into your lives. You are a sacrament of God's presence. I'm blessed by prep in 7 years in Africa. There's an African proverb which goes, I am because we are. One way of saying, a man for others. Dominic Canozzi, are you here? Table 22. Here we are. A little round of applause from Nigeria. He helped me. He came over not knowing anybody except myself, yet going around with prep gear. He found so many alumni willing to take him in, invite him for Christmas and Thanksgiving. So Dominic, thank you for helping me to learn another culture. I'm blessed with good health. The secret is good junk food. Good health to continue Mass on the road with the Spirituality Committee and the ministry at Fordham University. To echo Lou Gehrig, I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And that's true. I live Murray Weigel Hall, which is a health care and retirement community. Many men in wheelchairs or walkers, and I've been blessed with good health. And I just thank God every day how He has blessed me. You know, in my room at Murray Weigel Hall, the walls are covered by pictures of so many of you here, and they are on the wall. But one side of the wall are pictures, obit cards of those who have died and live now in a new life. And that's our faith. We're going to see one another again in a new life. And every day, those pictures, those obituary pictures, are a reminder of who and what is important and how I have been blessed. And in front of them is a 6-foot cutout of Pope Francis, who in his 80s, he's in his 80s. He didn't retire. Shows us what and who is important and really how to live. I'm thankful really to my former teachers, certainly going through the society and at Brooklyn Prep, especially the late Father John Boyd, who had us use our imagination to think in concrete languages, not in philosophical terms, and to memorize the poetry of Jerron Banley Hopkins. And so I'll conclude, because I know you want to get to the Yankee game, with the last lines of a poem from Hopkins. Christ plays in 10,000 places, lovely in limbs and lovely in the Father's eyes, through the features of men's faces. Look around. I ask you to take 20 seconds. Look around at the people here. Go ahead, look around. Each of you, a sacrament of God's presence for all of us, a gift from God. We're all blessed this evening, so thank you. You know, I know I would have to have a camera to take your picture. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for making this evening a fabulous celebration of Prep Pride. Before we conclude the program, I ask all of our alumni, our students, our faculty, and our staff to stand and join me in singing our alma mater. It is our pride and our glory, old in song and in story, and we cherish your name and we love your fair fame for the days of long ago, and we your sons will be loyal to St. Peter so royal. May your banners still guide us wherever we go. It is a story with no shadow of sadness. Our year spent with you, St. Peter so true, and you hold our hearts, and through the we will treasure with a joy beyond measure the you have given. We shall never forget. Let's go, Prep!